Now we got the trusses on, we are tweaking them into place, and that's pretty much done. We're ready for the decking to go on top. Almost. We have to tie the trusses down to the walls with these. These are hurricane ties. I'll hammer nails into these holes, into the truss, and then into these holes, into the top sill plates. It'll hold the trusses down to the home. There's a couple tools that I would recommend buying before you start building your own house, and maybe we'll do a video on those, but this is one of them. This is a palm nailer, and they're not expensive as far as tools go. So you grab, and there's specific nails you got to use too. This nail gets magneted into the nailer. Line it up appropriately. Boom. It's nailed in. Oop. Bent nail. And while I'm up here, I'm just caulking in between these two top sill boards, whatever they're called, just because I saw some daylight in between them in a couple places. I got a good deal on this big stretch caulking material, so I'm gonna use it. Now's the time to put the subfascia on, and this is a 2x6 that I'm using for the subfascia. I need to cut that angle in the end of these to the end of the board. I know that my roof obviously has a pitch, and it's called a 412 pitch. In other words, over the course of 12 inches, it will raise up 4 inches. I get my speed square, and under here you can see it has these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. I'm going to use this 4 to get my pitch. Slide the speed square up to the edge of the board, and this word pivot is right here. So you use that as a pivot until this 4 is in line with the board. Right here, here's the board, here's that. That pivot has to stay down there. Now, cut that off, and then this angle will be the angle that I need to put up on the rafter. Unfortunately, the installation of the subfascia did not get recorded. I was in a hurry, and things had to move along faster than I could take the time to set up the cameras and such. Not to worry, we'll just reenact the whole thing. First, gotta put on my gloves. Safety first. Second, stand on your wife's shoulders. Get Dan to lift you up in a tractor, or I think I will opt to put on my fancy stilts. Subfascia is a 2x6 board that I will be nailing to the ends of the trusses and the ends of the outriggers that you would have seen in the last videos. This 2x6, when being installed on the truss ends, needs to not be flush with the top of the truss end. Because this is a plumb cut truss, the 2x6 needs to drop down about a ½ inch in order to be in line with the incline of the 412 roof pitch. That way, our decking, which is just OSB boards, can fall right down to the end without running into any interference. At the gable ends, we need to cut the 412 angle into the subfascia boards in order to match the angle at the peak. Now that the trusses are down and the blocking's installed, I got Lawrence nailing off the blocking, and our subfascia is on. We got OSB here in our piles. This is for the decking on the roof, and that's kind of what we're preparing to do next. Lawrence is going to put these down inside these clips here. You missed this one, Lawrence. I'm just letting you know because I'm a friend. Uh-oh, the bottom's hitting it now. There we go. Finally. We did it. First try. First try. So now that's clipped in here and here every 2 feet, right? And that's every single one of them. What do these do, Lawrence? What's the point?
Spaces them out. I think it keeps the OSB lined up.
So it doesn't get all warpy and wobbly?
Yeah,
okay.
It keeps it in line.
So there's also another really important part of this, and it's called the nailing schedule. Is it? They're going to look at how many nails there are, how far apart they are on each stud and on the edges. All right, we're gonna work on the soffit now. The soffit is the designer piece, or the thing you see when you look up underneath the trusses, the outriggers here. So it'll attach to the subfascia here, and it'll attach to this wall here. What I was going to do was level across, get my pencil, make a mark, and snap a line so that I could then put a nailer. I have this just piece of trash I found on the ground, and if I want a level soffit, it'll nail here, but there's nothing to nail it off over here. So essentially, we'll be putting a 2x4 here at this level all the way across. It's YouTube time. So we're measuring from there, exactly 8 feet over here. And Brian's going to measure a board there and tell me what the measurement is.
5/16, 16 and 5/16.
So I'm gonna cut a board at 16 and 5/16, so I'll give it back to him. We go watch Brian nail this thing into place with all the skills he's accrued over the past, what, 20 minutes?
32 minutes.
Yes, so that mark you made?
Yeah.
Split the difference exactly. So now on each side there's a nailer over here, there's a nailer over here, and now we put the soffit board with the cut side out, Brian.
Are you in hyperlapse?
No.
Oh.
No, this is real time. It's watching your face right now.
Yeah? Yep.
Whoa! That's how professionals install soffit. So we do that all the way down. I'm not gonna just put on hyperlapse, yeah? We have our roofing panels, of course, and there's some shorter ones up there for a project in the future. And we have our trim and our fascia and all the rolls. I'm gonna unload all this as we need it and go through with you guys what it is, where to use it, and why. Here are the two underlayment products that we're using. This is the first product that you use on the bottom 3 feet of the roof, and it is a peel and stick. You peel it, you stick it. However, let me show you something that frustrated me to no end. So here is some OSB, and this is what the decking of the roof is. So this stuff is supposed to peel and stick to this stuff. As you can see, it doesn't. If you do this, it doesn't even stick to itself. Over time, if it gets hot, it'll stick, I guess, but what we ended up having to do is hammer staple this stuff in. Now, after this stuff heats up and melts a little bit in the springtime, that tar might melt and start sticking waterproofing around these staples. The rest of the roof is this stuff. This is grip tight. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just paper. But paper isn't really appropriate as a name. This is pretty gnarly stuff. Like, you can't. I'm actually trying really, really hard to rip this. It's not to be ripped. Cutting it is easy. You can cut it with a blade or scissors or whatever. It's actually very fibrous and strong. You can see here, it says grip right, nail here. So anywhere on this paper that this symbol is, with the exception of these giant ones, with the small symbol that says nail here, you put a nail. These are what you're supposed to use on this paper. Now this has a cap on it, and it feels like it's aluminum or maybe stainless, but yeah, this is a roofing nail for this paper specifically, and you have to put a nail in there everywhere that these little signs are. I've had 2 roofers tell me this. If you use these and then you put steel over the top, you will see these poking through your steel, but the steel will form around them and it makes a very ugly roof. And so even though these are required, if I want to warranty on this paper product, I was advised to still not use them because of how terrible the roof would end up looking and maybe even performing. You don't want this wearing a hole in your roof over time. The hammer stapler, everywhere that there's a nail here sign. Here's the half of the roof that only has paper and the peel and stick. I peeled it, it didn't stick. In fact, this whole thing fell off the roof after I tried to stick it. So I ended up having to actually staple it, as you can see there, to the roof. The requirements were that the bottom 3 feet of this roof need to be this product or a product like it. On up, I need paper. You can rip it out of these staples, but it is not like normal paper. This stuff is pretty tough. We rolled it out, stapled it, making sure that so that the layer that is higher goes over the layer underneath it so that water can run down and never make it under. I don't really like these details. I wanted much more expensive details for my roof, but I don't think we're gonna have a problem with this. I have a very good friend who's helping me do this roof. He's been doing it for years and years and years and has said that he doesn't have problems with the roofs that he builds. You'll also notice there are no penetrations in this roof yet. We're putting the metal on first and making the penetrations for plumbing and things later. That way we don't have to cut anything around and make guesses and measurements. When we drill up through the bottom of the roof, it will be exactly where it needs to be. Now that the underlayment is on, it's time for the actual steel part of the roof, the part that you'll see from the road or if you're standing outside looking at the home. I've opted for the 29 gauge ribbed material. Here in southwestern Colorado, we don't get a lot of weather of any kind, really. We do get a lot of snow, but we don't get a lot of hail. We don't get a lot of rain. Pretty dry here. 29 gauge is plenty. There are those of you already who are thinking how weak a material this is. I don't disagree, but it also doesn't matter. Process is pretty simple. The first thing we're going to do is pull sheets off and stack them on the ground up to about 11. Now we had a sheet lying at the side there. It's already been measured and drilled. We lay that one on top of the stack and use it as a guide to drill the holes through the rest of the stack. Then you'll see that we clamp them together with vice grips in various areas just to make sure that the stack stays aligned and together. Then we take the individual pieces of the stack, hand them up one at a time. I get up the ladder, make sure they're lined up at the bottom to the overhang that I want, and everything looks good. And then the guys up top on top of the roof make sure their end looks good, and then we just start sending screws through into the decking underneath. It's a pretty simple process. We just do that until we ran out of steel. Here's our roof. The color is called, I believe, hickory. We're missing one panel on the end. It's on the trailer. Wow, I hate ladders.